Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to review the fourth album from Bob Dylan. So everyone talks about who was the first person to come up with a record recorded all by himself, and people talk about McCartney's debut in 1970, people talk about Stevie Wonder's Music of My Mind as being one of the first, and Pete Townshend's first one around about the same time, which was more or less all solo. But 8-10 years before that, Bob had come out with albums, 4 albums, his first 4 albums completely solo. And this one, he was always playing guitar and harmonica and singing, but here on this one he plays a bit of piano as well. No drums, but no bass, but still all solo. And one is just reminded of what a peak Dylan was at in the 60s in terms of his songwriting. I don't tend to favour the totally acoustic albums over the later 60s period. It's not the albums I go back to that often, but from a purely songwriting point of view, this is top-notch Dylan, with not too many exceptions. So this album was released on August the 8th, 1964. Even though it predated the Dylan Goes Electric, which happened on the following album, on side 1 of the following album, Bringing It All Back Home, which caused all the furore amongst the folk scene and at the Newport Festival when Dylan turned up with an electric band. But even on this album, although it's all folk acoustic stuff, one reviewer said somehow he's lost touch with people and caught up in the paraphernalia of fame. Presumably that's because these songs are more personal, more humorous, less political, for want of a better word. So the previous album, Times They Are Changing, had Masters of War and God on Their Side. And this album, I'm just trying to think, there's not really any obviously political songs, although the messages are subliminal, as always with Dylan. So the album starts off with All I Really Want to Do, and he's done this song live several times, but it's never really approached the original album version. His voice is so youthful here. He can do the octave leap on the chorus with effortless ease. He wouldn't try to do that when he did it live at Budokan, for example. And it's just a joy, and Dylan's sense of humour shines through. Black Crow Blues, we've got Bob on piano, I think for the first time on an album, but I might be wrong. You guys can correct me if I've missed an earlier song. Spanish Harlem Instant is another engaging track. Chimes of Freedom is one of several tracks covered by the Byrds, and this is a CD I have of the Byrds play Dylan, and Chimes of Freedom is on here, and also the previous track, Spanish Harlem Instant. Also, All I Really Want to Do, and My Back Pages. So that's 4 songs from this album covered by the Byrds, and the Byrds do a good version, but this one is just the stripped down acoustic version. I Shall Be Free, number 10. This is a very funny track in the same mould as some of the tracks of Freewheeling, where he's kind of talking about Cassius Clay and I'm a poet, I know it, hope I don't blow it. It's pretty gripping, amusing song. As I say, Dylan's sense of humour is produced by Tom Wilson, this album. To Ramona is one of his top, not just top early ballads, top ballads of his career. I think this was a very mature song and more of a generous love song than maybe something like Don't Think Twice, which is a little bit bitter. I'm not sure who this song was directed to, but it's beautiful melody, and it's an underrated gem. I don't think he did it in concert very often, if at all. Side 2 opens with Motorcycle Nightmare, and it's pretty good. My Back Pages follows. Another one of those hidden gems on any Dylan album. Contains that classic line, "I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now." And as I say, yeah, the Byrds covered it, and also on the Dylan 30th anniversary concert from 1992, there was an all-star cast who did that song where they all took it in turns to sing a verse. George Harrison, Neil Young, I can't remember who else was singing. I think Roger McGuinn was also one of the vocalists. And it's a bit like a repeat of The Last Waltz from '76, but albeit with a different song. So that's a great one, and it's pretty decent on here as well, the acoustic version. I Don't Believe You, just the stripped down acoustic version on here. They would take this song and do a rocked up version on the '66 tour with the Hawks, who later became the band. And I think this is one of the songs which drew people in the crowd to boo, and someone shouted Judas, I think, as they were performing this song. And I can't remember if I got it right, sorry. Someone shouted Judas and Dylan said, "I don't believe you." I'm not sure if that was addressed at the person who said Judas or the fact that they were about to embark on that song. I can't remember, but either way, it's you can hear that on the '66 Albert Hall gig bootleg series. Ballad in Plain D is, we know what this was written about because I've done some research. He split up with his girlfriend Susie, and his sister Carla, I think her name was, he calls her a parasite sister, and she apparently was upset when Bob and Susie were arguing. Carla was intervening and Bob lost his rag with her, and then ended up writing this pretty nasty song, which slagged off her and wasn't too kind on, well, it was okay on Susie actually. It was mainly aimed at the sister, and later on in his career, when he was asked any songs he wished he hadn't written, he said, yeah, Ballad in Plain D. Probably some things one should just let be, and probably he says he shouldn't really have done that. And then the album finishes with It Ain't Me, Babe, which was also recorded for the live album Before the Flood, and it's just a superb track. In fact, I think he played this in concert at Wembley in 1984 when I saw him on the tour with Santana when Van Morrison came on at the end. I think he played it there, not sure. Definitely played It's All Over Now, Baby Blue off the following album. So Mr. Tambourine Man was recorded for this album, but left off and included in the next album. It's a longish album, 50 minutes, very long for the time, I think, because most albums were lasting not more than half an hour. Number 43 in the US, but disappointing number 8 in the UK. There was a time, believe it or not, when Dylan was more popular in the UK than he was in the US. I think by the time the 60s ended, that had reversed itself, but there was a time in the mid-60s where he was extremely popular in the UK and not quite as popular in the US. So this is an all-solo album from Bob. After this, he would employ the use of a band, more or less for the rest of his career, with a couple of exceptions, where he's done acoustic albums, like As Good As I've Been to You, and the other one, whose name, World Gone Wrong. But other than that, he's employed the use of a band, but it's nice to go back to these albums and just reminds one of what a complete musician Dylan was. And he didn't need anyone to, certainly didn't need anyone to write songs with. He was an all-encompassing, self-sufficient songwriter and a pretty decent guitarist to accompany himself and harmonica player. So that was another side of Bob Dylan. Thank you for watching. See you next time.